My name is Maya Underdown, and I'm starting this presentation about the Laser Mentor Program. I just want to welcome everyone. And if you need to contact anyone about any of the information presented today, the email is there provided for you. It's Elena Costello, and that's costello.45@osu.edu. So you can contact her with any questions. What we're going to cover today is just what the purpose of Laser is, so you know what you're getting into, and then also what exactly is a mentor. Some people confuse that definition. Next, we're going to talk about what to do during the first meeting you have with your students, and also how to get to know one another. Next, we're going to talk about dealing with parents, how to set some goals for the whole semester or for the whole school year, and then some potential problems you may have during this mentoring, and finally, some tips for success. So what exactly does LASER stand for? It stands for Latino and Latin American Space for Enrichment and Research. And we just want to let you know that, so just in case people are asking what this is for, you can explain to them. And our mission is to promote the research and exchange in the field of Latino and Latin American studies. Now, the goal of the mentoring program is to expand the presence of Latinos in higher education, as well as to enrich the undergraduate research experience at OSU, and to professionalize students for successful application to advanced professional and graduate school programs. Sounds like a mouthful, but it really helps you understand what we're trying to accomplish. So what exactly is a mentor? A lot of people confuse mentoring with just simply being a tutor or simply being, kind of a big brother, big sister type of thing. I know a lot of people hear that when it comes to mentoring. For us, a mentor is either a coach, a guide, a tutor, a facilitator, a counselor, and a trusted advisor. So a mentor wears a lot of hats throughout the whole program. And also, it's very important to emphasize that a mentor is someone who's willing to spend his or her time and expertise to guide the development of another person. I really want everyone to understand that because you're making a commitment to be a very effective and efficient mentor. Okay, so let's cover some expectations we have for this program. First, we're going to start with what is expected of you as the mentor. First, we want you to be on time. That's very important. You're setting a precedent for your student as well. Consistent meetings. We want you to be meeting at the same time, same place, every week or every other week, depending on what you have set with your student. And we also want you to be meeting for the same amount of time. So whether that be an hour or 2 hours, just make sure it's consistent. We also want you to make sure you have consistent communication with your students, so you can make sure that you have an effective way to contact them if you're going to be late, if they're running late, if an emergency comes up. So make sure you have good communication. Also, come prepared. Whatever your student needs, if they wanted you to look up some stuff about colleges, if they needed help with a certain maybe mathematical equation, anything of that nature, just make sure you're coming prepared to all meetings. I kind of advise people to bring maybe their laptops with them, or maybe a book or some old test or something if you happen to have any of that. And also, if you need any other materials for preparation, make sure you contact Elena. Also, bring something to record your activities and your progress. So that could just be simply taking notes on your laptop about what you guys are going through every meeting, but that way you can make sure you're keeping track of how the students are doing. And also make sure your full and focused attention is there all the time. This means avoiding answering phone calls, sending text messages, responding to emails during the sessions you have with your students. You're there for them. And lastly, make sure you're answering all their questions and concerns, or make sure you're getting back to them with, a good response. If you don't know what it is, you've contacted somebody else, sent them to the right person. Make sure you can answer all their questions. Now, what is not expected of you during your sessions? This kind of sounds, a little funny, but we want to make sure students are understanding that they're not expected to do everything for their students. You don't need to provide food, clothing, or shelter. You don't need to entertain them. You should not be spending any of your personal money. And also, you don't need to complete any assignments for them or provide specific answers for them without explaining it and helping them learn something. Also, each student should have their own means of transportation to the mentoring site, so you should not be driving them around anywhere. And we really want to cover these because it's a liability for students to be doing different things for their mentees. So we just want to make sure everyone understands that. Okay, so here's some tips for when you're having the first meeting with your student. First, involve their parent as much as possible. That way you guys can, get kind of all those introductions out of the way. The parents can be set at ease so they know who their student's going to be spending time with and things of that nature. Make sure you're meeting at an appropriate place, and it's hopefully a laser space, but if not, make sure it's a public location, sometimes maybe meeting at the school or meeting at a library, things of that nature. We don't want you meeting at restaurants because that kind of, it kind of creates an atmosphere where the student is forced to spend some money. Also, make sure you're getting all their contact information. That's one of the major things, so you can always contact your student and also the parents' contact information. You should set the schedule for the student so you guys know when and where you're meeting and for how long. Make a plan for any future meetings. So if you guys know that you need to start, for example, maybe SAT studying, so make a plan for that. Let's cover, the first section for the next 2 sessions or things of that nature. And then also just get to know one another. What are your hobbies, any things you guys have in common? And we'll talk a little bit more about getting to know each other. So introducing yourself, this is about getting to know each other, and there's some things we want you sharing, and then there's also some things we don't want you sharing. The things you can share are just kind of the basics. Everyone's gone through an icebreaker before. Maybe what your major is, what you're focusing on studying at school, where you're from, where you went to school. So, maybe if you've gone to another university before, or your high school and things of that nature. Family basics, you have 1 brother, 2 sisters, things like that. Any, good educational college and high school experiences. You had a really great class, you had a really great teacher, things like that. And then, general interest in hobbies. Do you play video games? Do you play soccer and things like that? Some things we don't want you sharing. Don't talk about inappropriate college experiences such as partying and alcohol consumption. Even if you do engage in such activities, we're trying to set a good example for students, and so we'd like to avoid any of those conversations. Also, any inappropriate relationship or dating information and experiences, that's another thing we just don't want to touch. Also, any participation in any other illegal activities. We hope that none of you guys are selling drugs on the side, but please avoid those conversations. Okay, so now getting to know your mentee. Information you should know. We want you to understand what their family and their background is, so where they're coming from, how many brothers and sisters they have, also any of their extracurricular activities or interests, things like that. And then also, most importantly, what year in school they are. We have some different things we want to focus on based on what level they're at. So, for example, for 9th grade, we want them to focus on just getting used to school, keeping up with study habits, any homework and things like that, maybe getting used to being in high school. Whereas if you see, for example, on this slide, we also have in 12th grade, we want you to focus on applying for and accepting universities, applying for scholarships, maybe deciding where you're going to go, and anything like that. And in between that, for 10th and 11th grade, as you can see, we kind of focus on a little bit of standardized testing and then also just keeping up with schoolwork. In addition to getting to know your mentee, some more information you want to know is how they're doing in school. So most importantly, you want to know what are their strengths and weaknesses. Do they have issues studying, or are they having issues getting the concepts? Anything like that. What are their favorite subjects? So maybe if math is a favorite subject for your student, you may not need to focus on that so much because they may already have, a very good strength in that. What's their class schedule? Sometimes your students may be overwhelmed. They may be taking 5 honors courses or something, or sometimes they maybe have a really relaxed schedule so they can fit in studying. So just make sure you know where they are. And then why are they struggling? Do they have enough time to study? Are they overwhelmed, or are they underwhelmed? Sometimes students can be underwhelmed and not be able to focus in class. Another important thing to know about your mentee is their learning style. So this helps you when you're helping explain any concepts for them. Do they learn by example, or do they learn through concepts? So some people may be visual learners, some people may be audio learners. It all depends. So make sure you know, that way you can kind of adapt your teaching to your mentee's style. Okay, an important thing to cover is dealing with the parents. Make sure you get their contact information in case of an emergency, and we covered this before. And also try to address any concerns they have about the activities that will be going on during the mentoring, and also where the mentoring will take place. And lastly, just make sure you discuss any means of transportation and give them any directions to the meeting site. Okay, another thing that's important is setting some goals for the mentorship. We want to make sure you're getting something accomplished from all your time. So again, based on what level they are in school or what grade they are, we want to focus on different things. So in ninth grade, as you can see, we want to focus on keeping up grades and maybe, understanding a certain concept, for getting them ready for something in the coming years. When they reach 10th grade, we want to start talking about OGT tests, so maybe you can set goals for getting a certain score. You also want to set goals for grades in school still. And now we want to make sure they're taking more difficult classes, so maybe their goal should be for the second half of the year to take an honors course. At 11th grade, we want to start taking time to study for the ACT and the SAT. So these are going to be great ways to set a goal. They want to reach a certain score. They should be checking out what colleges are accepting or what college would like to have as an AT or SAT score. So this is a great way to set goals. And also they can choose some colleges to apply to. This may be a little early, but sometimes it would be a great way to maybe have a goal to find 3 colleges they're interested in. 12th grade is really important for goal settings because now we want to make sure they apply for universities and scholarships by certain deadlines. So these are pretty preset goals that should be good for the student. And also maybe picking a focus of study. So maybe a goal could be narrowed down to 5 choices of a major they would like, because this really helps them also through the application process for the universities. And any other goals you can come up with during the year would be great. Just make sure you're documenting all of these. Okay, so we want to cover some potential problems that we've had in the past and anything that can come up too. First, time commitment and scheduling, and this is on your part and also the part of the student. We want to make sure both of you are committing your time and scheduling appropriately for these meetings. So this also goes back to making consistent meetings for same time, same place, same length of time, and then also making sure that you're not canceling on the student or they're not canceling on you too many times. So this is also, like I said, a commitment issue. Second is preparation. And again, this is on both the part of you and the student. Are they coming prepared? Do they bring pencils? Do they bring the homework that's necessary to work on or whatever college applications they want help with? Or are they coming prepared with questions that they want answered? And on your part, are you bringing whatever is necessary to help your mentoring? Next is resources. So if you ever need help finding answers to questions, make sure that you are seeking out the appropriate, person, which would most likely be Elena. She can kind of direct you to some good resources for any questions your mentee may have. Another issue may be meeting locations. And like we said before, we're trying to avoid restaurants and personal homes or personal, locations. We want to keep it to public places. And hopefully you are meeting in the laser space. But again, like I said, some suggestions are a public library or the actual school where the mentee goes. Next are communication options. And the appropriate options are always email and through a phone, but we have had some students who wonder if they can contact their student through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and things like that. And we want to keep away from social networking. This is an educational focus, so it should just simply be emails and phone or texting is okay. Also, another problem we do have is deterring inappropriate questions. And we covered before what things are appropriate to share and not share. And so sometimes your mentee may ask, what's partying like on campus? They always want to know, or did you drink alcohol when you were a freshman? So whatever way you can, we want to deter these, get away from these conversations and say, I've gone to a party on campus, but, let's go back to, problem number 5. I know you were having questions about that. So anything you can do to deter inappropriate questions. And I know this is a gray area for many students. So just make sure you use your best judgment in this situation. And then also, if you can come up with any other suggestions, make sure you're sharing them with your fellow mentors, because if you have an issue and you resolve it effectively, it would be great to share that with the rest of the mentors so we can all, have a great mentorship. Finally, I'd like to cover some tips for success, and there's millions, but here are just a few. Document your progress and activities. We covered this before. Just make sure you're keeping track of what you're doing, and this really helps you, make sure you're making some progress. Also, use any resources that are provided to you by Laser. If you need help with, college essays and things like that, or making sure you can find the right school to, have your student apply to, use the resources that you have. Also, come prepared to each meeting, and we've covered this before. Just simply, have your laptop, make sure you have, pencil or calculator so you can help out your student. And also ask your fellow mentors for help. And I just covered this on the previous slide, but if you have any issues and another mentor has gone through the same thing, seek help from them. And then also vice versa, make sure you are available for helping any of your other fellow mentors. It just makes everything a little bit easier. Again, contact Elena if you have any super important concerns. This is also, for liability's sake. So if anything comes up, you have Elena to contact. And lastly, have fun. This shouldn't be work exactly. It should be fun, helping someone else achieve success in their high school and college career. So make sure you guys are having fun. So again, if you guys have any questions, you have the contact information on the first presentation of this slide. But again, Elena's contact information is costello.45@osu.edu. And just make sure you're seeking help and keep up with the great work and have a great year. Thank you.